the first thing I'd like to do is I went on to your website, which is viewpoint.ca last night, and just to have a look. You can log in. It's free. You just set up a little account. Basically, you're not going to send me like crappy emails and stuff, are you?
No, we have a 100% no hassle policy.
Okay, good. So I feel much better about that. So I make a little account and I go on. The first thing I have is it shows up as a map of Halifax and Dartmouth and environs and MLS listings, it's in a fairly user-friendly dashboard that's in front of me here when you bring up the map. Okay, so what can I find out with this thing?
Essentially, Jordy, it's a comprehensive real estate information portal dedicated right now to Nova Scotia property. So it takes every single property in Nova Scotia and then puts all on top of a Google map. And in addition, it includes all the MLS information, or most of it, from the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors. So it's the ultimate property mashup, if I could put it in modern-day terms.
So I know a lot of folks use MLS when they go to search a property, but there's a value add in here. What is it? What is it that I would get on this that I wouldn't get, for example, on the MLS site?
Right. Well, if you go to the public Realtor website, realtor.ca, it provides information on all the properties that are for sale. What it doesn't provide is information on all the other properties. The vast majority of properties are not for sale. However, when people are looking for properties, of course, if they're in the market to buy, they look at the ones that are for sale, but very quickly they will start to look around those properties and see what the neighborhoods are like. They'll also want to know things like what properties have sold for. The most important piece of information in real estate today, well, I think since the beginning of time, is not what something is listed for, but what something has sold for or comparable properties have sold for. So we have all the properties as well as additional information that's not available.
Yeah, so I mean, when you're talking about the price that something has sold for, that's really the only benchmark that you have to operate from. I mean, the rest is vaporware. What somebody says they want for it, or how much they say they've put into it over the last year or so. It's what the houses in the neighborhood sold for, and what this thing sold for the last time around, and how long ago that was. So you provide a history in there.
Yes, we actually provide a detailed history going back many years for each property that is sold through the MLS system. ViewPoint Realty is actually a licensed real estate brokerage, and as a brokerage, we have access through our membership to the real estate information that historically has only been able to be accessed by the consumer through a realtor. I happen to be a realtor. We're a licensed brokerage. We've just chosen to deliver the information in a more mechanical, self-service way, which is generally the way the modern consumer wants it.
So take me through a process here. Let's say I want to go out and buy a house, and I want to buy a house in, let me pick a neighborhood around here. Let's say the south end of Halifax, for example.
Yes.
Where do I start with your particular service here, if that's what I can call it?
Well, if you look at how the typical home buyer approaches buying a home, generally once they've discussed it, if it's an individual or a couple, once they've discussed it, they'll usually proceed physically to neighborhoods if they're in the city where they want to buy. But following close behind that, maybe even preceding it, is going online. The consumer knows that there's a lot of real estate information online, and what they'll do is they'll browse. They'll start browsing online, and they'll look, of course, at the available inventory, what's for sale, and they want data, but they also want pictures. One of the things we believe from the beginning, and it's proven through the data or through the statistics, is that people want to see pictures. So that's why we put together or integrate it with Google Street View, for example. We have some of our own Street View imagery, as well as aerial imagery, satellite photography, and people use that to gain perspective on the market.
Are you going to put real estate agents out of business?
No, that is not the intent of ViewPoint.ca.
It may not be the intent, but sometimes there are unintended consequences of doing things. Because when you look at a real estate agent will bring you exactly what's on here. They'll say, okay, look, this is what the house across the street sold for, and they kind of go, okay, this is what the house across the street sold for, and this is what the one up the street's for sale for, and this is what this one, they paid for this one about 3 years ago, and seriously, I mean, this is what a real estate agent will do, is that they bring this information to you to help you make a decision, and presumably they're doing it in your best interests. I mean, that's what you would hope from a real estate agent. And then you take all of this information and say, okay, I can make a deal on the advice of this person who says, the real estate agent, this is the house for you. You should be living here because it's got the schools. I click onto one of these properties that are listed here. I've got all that.
Well, we do get this question a lot.
No kidding.
There's quite a bit more to a real estate transaction than just consuming factual information from the internet. And there's two sides to a trade. There's the seller and there's the buyer. If we're looking at selling a property, certainly realtors historically and even to this day are still valuable sources of information. But there's many things a computer and the internet cannot do. One, for example, we spent a lot of time on this, is how do you price a property? Only a human that I've seen can actually make a reasonable judgment or assessment of what a listing price should be on a property. Negotiation. The process of actually transacting the property and going through the purchase and sale agreement, and the marketing. Marketing goes beyond the MLS. Yes, it is the number one marketing vehicle, but there are other means to bring awareness to properties that really the realtors specialize in, and vendors who sell houses think that's important. So there's many things that we can't do and will never do on the internet or with software.
So you're talking about due diligence, essentially.
And advice. A computer cannot give you advice. It can give you
no,
information.
but it certainly can give you a range that you can begin to operate from. I mean, so I guess what you're saying to me is, or to our audience, is that using this site will help you be more informed when you deal with a real estate agent and beginning that transaction.
That's exactly what it is. It's really a source of information, much of the same information the realtor would provide you. It allows the buyer or the seller to be more educated in the process, and allows the realtor, to focus on the things that only they can do.
Okay. Let's go back to me wanting to buy a house in the South End.
Sure.
All right. So I click on the property, and what's it going to give me essentially?
Well, essentially, we'll give you access to what we call a variety of types of data and imagery. So on the data side, you can find out everything from the assessment value to the lot size, to the prior sales history of the property, if it had been previously sold. Was it listed and did it expire? Many people try to list properties or list them and they don't sell. So it gives you a full perspective in terms of the factual pieces of information related to the property, but it also gives you the imagery. We have street view imagery. Mm-hmm. We have aerial imagery taken from an aircraft. We didn't take the pictures, mind you. We're using another source.
Well, this. Sorry, I didn't.
Go ahead.
But I mean, there's a pile of information in here, and you draw from a whole bunch of different sources.
Yes.
What are these sources? Where do you get this data from, or is this? Is this, if you tell me you have to kill me or something?
No, it's not. It's not top secret at all. Getting the data is relatively easy in most cases, not all. Actually making it or presenting it in an easy to consume way, making it easy to navigate for the consumer is really the challenge. The data comes from the province of Nova Scotia, for example. From the Property Valuation Services Corporation, which is our Nova Scotia assessment, used to be called Nova Scotia Assessment, and from the MLS, our provincial association, the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors, and we also have another one source from the the Halifax Regional School Board. So when you click on a property, this is a neat little feature. We don't just tell you what schools are nearby. We tell you which schools actually apply to the property you are looking at buying.
So if you're in a certain catchment area, right, whether or not it's a French immersion school, correct, all that stuff.
Yes. Very important because, as many parents know, the schools have different programs. So if your child's in French, you may not be going to the school that's closest. Or vice versa. If you're in English, you may end up going to a school that's further away. It depends on which property, really, you're looking at buying.
So what you've done here is kind of gone through, okay, if I'm a property buyer, what are the questions that I'm going to be asking, and then try to put it all in one little dashboard. Yeah,
that was it. It was really to bring together information that's generally been available in lots of other places, putting it in one place and making it very easy to read or view or see.
What kind of data do you have there?
Well,
in terms of numbers and whatnot.
Well, it's quite shocking. I mean, if you look at just our website, and we wouldn't be unusual. If you look at the statistics for Realtor.ca, which is the public MLS website, ours are not that much different. For example, the average person that visits the website spends about 13 minutes on the site. in a typical session. If you compare that
That's
to
a long
regular
time,
internet
yeah.
sites, that's a long time. They view about 30 pages of information. If I compared that to, Yahoo.ca or some other general portal, the numbers wouldn't be anywhere near that.
Wow. What's happened with MLS, and I know that there's been some discussion about the Competition Bureau and whatnot. They've had some discussions about the interactivity between your site and MLS and whatnot. What's gone on there anyway?
Well, as a result of the success of MLS, it became dominant. The statistics show that 90% of people who sell a house will sell it using a realtor, which means it ends up on MLS. And because they, in the eyes of the Competition Bureau, achieved what is known as a dominant position, they became subject to rules. And then, to make a long story short, the Competition Bureau had asked the Canadian Real Estate Association to modify some of their rules that they felt were forcing the consumer to buy services they didn't need. I'll be specific. The old rules of MLS said that a realtor, when they post your listing on MLS.ca or in the MLS system, is required to be your agent and be the interface between you, the seller, and all the buyers or their agents. That rule has since been changed in that the seller of a property, with the agreement of the realtor, can just purchase the posting of the listing on MLS. It's known as a mere posting. So if a seller was qualified enough either in their own mind or really qualified because of their experience to handle all the additional affairs or processes associated with selling, they could, if a realtor would agree, the realtor could simply post their listing on MLS and have no further really role in the process. That is now in place. Mm-hmm. So it's within the rules for a realtor to do that if they so chose.
How do you make money with this? Because I'm looking around at, if I had a website where people were coming in and spending 13 minutes,
yeah,
there'd be banner ads all over it. I mean, there'd be click-throughs. You'd be saying, okay, not here. It's nice and clean. It just seems that, the only thing that's on your site here is stuff that you can use, which is, no annoying little cells here and there.
Well, we're certainly not a charity. We have a business model that actually is changing. We originally were, and we still are, a licensed real estate brokerage, and we did list and sell houses just like other brokerages for the first 11 months of this year. And we have just recently changed, so we're actually going to become a gateway between the consumer and the real estate services providers. Essentially allowing the real estate services providers to find customers through our site. We're not selling email lists. We're making it a service where the consumer makes the decision as to who they're going to connect with for a real estate listing or for a mortgage or for insurance or inspection or legal. There's a whole variety of services that the consumer will need, and we want to be the place where they find them.
So you're saying, okay, I go in, I go through all of this research, I find the perfect house, it's got the schools and, there's a corner store and all the stuff that I need. It's in the right price range. It seems to be, reasonable in terms of its value and all of the other information that goes along with it. And then you make a decision, okay, I'm going to buy this thing, or I'm going to make an offer on it, or yes, I want to proceed further. So then it's going to be like you'll have an option in your site that you can go see Royal LePage or Prudential or whoever it might be that you want to deal with, and you'll facilitate that transaction?
Yes, we'll help you find the service provider that's best for you. In many categories, starting with the real estate brokerage side. We know just based on statistics, 90% of the people are going to choose a realtor. We believe that as the primary source of information, that we can help them find the person or brokerage that best meets their needs.